The mysterious encounter. The observatory was quiet that night, except for the faint hum of machines and the occasional click of keys. Liam, a reclusive astrophysicist, sat hunched over his computer, his tired eyes scanning endless streams of data. The universe was vast, mysterious, and silent, or so he had believed. For years, he had searched for something, anything, to prove humanity was not alone. He had grown used to disappointment. Then, it happened. A small, unusual blip appeared on his monitor. It wasn't the regular chatter of satellites or the familiar noise of stars. This signal was deliberate, almost melodic. Liam frowned, leaning closer. He played it again and again, adjusting the frequency, isolating the sound. His heart raced as he realized it wasn't just random noise. It was a pattern. Someone, or something, was trying to communicate. The signal repeated itself, and this time, Liam deciphered a faint voice. It was playful, almost teasing. "Do humans ever dance with the stars?" The words sent chills down his spine. He sat frozen, his mind racing. Could this be a prank? A mistake? But deep down, he knew it was neither. The voice felt alive. Determined to trace the origin, Liam activated the observatory's most advanced telescope, aligning it with the coordinates embedded in the signal. The screen flickered, and then he saw it, a faint glimmer against the dark expanse of space. It wasn't a star or a meteor. It was moving, descending toward Earth. "Impossible," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the pounding of his heart. The object grew brighter, breaking through the atmosphere. He grabbed his jacket and rushed outside, his breath visible in the cold night air. The sky above him lit up as the object streaked across it like a falling star. It was heading toward the fields beyond the observatory. Liam hesitated for a moment. His logical mind urged him to stay put, to call for backup, to analyze the data. But curiosity and adrenaline overruled his caution. Grabbing a flashlight, he made his way through the dark, uneven terrain, the cold wind biting at his face. As he approached the landing site, the air seemed to hum with energy. His steps slowed. There it was, a sleek silver spacecraft, no larger than a small plane, resting in the middle of the field. Its surface shimmered, reflecting the starlight in ways that seemed unnatural. The hum grew louder as Liam stepped closer, his flashlight trembling in his hand. Before he could take another step, the craft's surface rippled, and a door slid open with a soft hiss. Liam froze, his breath caught in his throat. A figure emerged, backlit by a soft, otherworldly glow. She was humanoid but undeniably alien. Her skin had a faint silver sheen, and her eyes, large and luminescent, seemed to hold galaxies within them. She wore a flowing garment that seemed to shift colors, blending with the light around her. The being stepped forward, her movements graceful, almost playful. Liam took a shaky step back, his instincts screaming at him to run, but he was rooted in place, unable to look away. "Hello," she said, her voice melodic and warm. She tilted her head, studying him with curiosity. "Are you the one who listened?" Liam swallowed hard, his mouth dry. I heard your signal." She smiled, a genuine, disarming smile that seemed to light up the space around her. "Good. I was starting to think humans weren't paying attention anymore." "Who? What are you?" he managed to ask, his voice barely above a whisper. She stepped closer, and for a moment, Liam thought he could feel the air around her vibrating with energy. "I am Arena," she said. "I've come a long way to find a companion." "A companion," Liam repeated, his mind struggling to process her words. "Yes," she said with a playful glint in her eyes. "Do you humans ever dance with the stars?" Her words from the signal. The same playful tone. Liam blinked, trying to find his voice. "Dance? I don't understand." Arena chuckled softly, a sound that seemed to echo in the air. "Perhaps you will, in time." She gestured to the spacecraft. "For now, let's just say I'm here to learn." to explore. And you, Liam, are going to help me. How do you know my name? He asked, his voice trembling. Orina gave him an enigmatic smile. I've been listening to. Before he could ask more, a strange rhythmic pulse emanated from the spacecraft, sending a ripple through the air. Orina turned back to the craft and then looked at Liam. Come. There's much to show you. Liam hesitated, his mind a storm of fear and curiosity. But as he stood there, staring at the alien woman who had crossed the stars to find him, he realized there was no turning back. Taking a deep breath, he followed her into the unknown. The proposal. The next morning, Liam sat in his cluttered kitchen, staring at a cup of untouched coffee. He hadn't slept. How could he? The events of the previous night played over and over in his mind like a looping film. The silver spacecraft, the alien woman, Orina, and her cryptic words, I've come to find a companion. He rubbed his eyes, trying to convince himself it was all a dream. But the faint hum of energy that still lingered in the air told him otherwise. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Sharp, deliberate, and strangely melodic. Liam froze. No one ever visited him. His heart pounded as he stood and approached the door. With a hesitant hand, he opened it. There she was, Orina, standing on his porch, as though it were the most natural thing in the world. She looked out of place against the mundane backdrop of his home, her shimmering, otherworldly form contrasting with the peeling paint and overgrown yard. Good morning, she said with a playful smile, as if they were old friends. She held up a loaf of bread, of all things, wrapped neatly in a cloth. I brought this. It's something humans like, yes. Liam blinked, struggling to process the absurdity of the situation. What? What are you doing here? Orina stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, her gaze flitting curiously around the room. I wanted to see where you live. This is part of the arrangement. What arrangement? He asked, shutting the door behind her. She turned to face him, her glowing eyes twinkling with mischief. I told you last night, we'll be companions for 7 days. By the end, you'll understand what it means to truly connect, with me, and with the universe. Liam shook his head. You can't just show up like this. People will notice. They'll ask questions. Orina raised an elegant eyebrow. Who? From what I've seen, you don't exactly have a bustling social circle. That stung more than it should have, mostly because it was true. Liam's life revolved around work and solitude. He had no family nearby, no close friends. His colleagues barely knew him beyond the occasional email. Even so, he muttered, this isn't normal. Orina tilted her head, studying him. Normal is boring. You humans cling to it like a shield, afraid to see what lies beyond. She stepped closer, her voice softening. But you're different, Liam. You listened. That's why I chose you. He wanted to argue, to tell her to leave, but there was something in her gaze, a sincerity that made him pause. Why me? He asked finally. Orina smiled. Because you still believe there's more to life than what you see. Most humans have stopped listening to the stars. You haven't. Her words struck a chord deep within him. For years, he had felt like an outsider, his obsession with the unknown pushing him further away from the world. But now, here was someone, something, that not only understood but celebrated it. Fine, he said, exhaling heavily. What exactly do you want from me? Orina's smile widened, and for a moment, it was almost childlike in its joy. I want to learn. Show me how humans live, how they feel, how they love. Love. Liam's eyebrows shot up. You're kidding, right? Not at all. She gestured toward the small kitchen table. Shall we start with breakfast? Before he could respond, she was already moving, examining the objects on the counter with fascination. She picked up a toaster, turning it over in her hands. What does this do? It's a toaster, Liam said, dumbfounded. Orina pressed the lever down, watching as the coils inside glowed red. "It's primitive but charming," she said. "Like your planet." Liam couldn't help but chuckle, despite himself. "You're not exactly making a great first impression." Orina laughed, a sound that seemed to fill the room with warmth. "Oh, I'm just getting started." As they sat down to eat, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that his life had taken a turn he could never have anticipated. Orina's presence was both unsettling and oddly comforting. She asked endless questions, her curiosity boundless. Why did humans sleep so much? What was the purpose of pets? Why did they drink coffee when it clearly made them jittery? By the time the sun was high in the sky, Liam found himself surprisingly at ease. Orina's playful demeanor was disarming, her laughter infectious. She seemed genuinely fascinated by even the most mundane aspects of his life. But as the day wore on, her lightheartedness gave way to a quieter, more reflective mood. They were sitting on the porch, watching the sunset, when she finally spoke. "There's something you should know," she said, her voice softer than usual. Liam glanced at her, sensing a shift in her energy. "What is it?" Orina looked out at the horizon, her expression unreadable. "My time here is limited. 7 days, no more. After that, I'll have to leave." "Why?" he asked, his chest tightening at the thought. She hesitated, then said, "Because this planet, it's not compatible with what I am. But in those 7 days, I hope to show you something extraordinary." Liam didn't know what to say. The idea of her leaving felt strangely unbearable, even though they had only just met. Orina turned to him, her eyes glowing softly in the fading light. "Will you help me, Liam? Will you show me what it means to be human?" He took a deep breath, the weight of her request settling over him. "Okay," he said finally. "I'll help you." Orina's smile returned, warm and full of promise. "Then let's begin." And as the first stars appeared in the night sky, Liam realized his life would never be the same. A bond beyond words. Liam had always thought of himself as a logical man, someone who approached life with reason and skepticism. But spending just a single day with Orina was beginning to challenge everything he believed about himself and the universe. By the 3rd day of their strange companionship, Orina had transformed his mundane life into something extraordinary. She wasn't just an alien visitor. She was a mirror reflecting parts of humanity he had never considered. Yet her playful demeanor often gave way to a deeper sadness she tried to hide. It started that morning when Liam found Orina in his small garden. She stood barefoot on the dewy grass, her silver-hued skin catching the soft light of dawn. She had her arms outstretched, as if trying to embrace the entire sky. "You're up early," Liam said, stepping out of the house with a cup of coffee in hand. Orina turned, her radiant eyes locking onto his. "Your sun rises so quietly. In my world, the sky hums with energy when the light returns." Her words painted vivid images in Liam's mind. "Your planet must be beautiful." It was, she said softly, her smile faltering for the briefest moment. Liam caught the sadness in her tone, but decided not to press. Instead, he asked, "What are you doing out here?" She gestured toward the flowers blooming along the edge of the garden. They're alive, yet they don't move. They don't speak, but they grow, they change. It's fascinating." Liam smiled. That's life. Growth, change, adaptation, even without sound. Orina crouched to examine a single daisy, her long fingers brushing its petals. "In my world, everything is connected. We don't have these boundaries. Plants, people, animals. Our thoughts and emotions flow freely between us." "That sounds overwhelming," Liam said, joining her on the grass. "Don't you ever feel the need to be alone?" Orina looked at him with a mix of curiosity and pity. "Humans place so much value on being alone. It's strange to me. Isolation feels hollow." Liam opened his mouth to argue but stopped. Wasn't that exactly how he'd been living? Hollow. Alone. He had spent years burying himself in his work, avoiding meaningful connections. Orina's words hit harder than he cared to admit. As they sat there in silence, Orina suddenly tilted her head, as if listening to something only she could hear. "Do you hear it?" she asked. "Hear what?" "The vibrations," she said, standing up. She reached out and touched his arm lightly. Her skin warmed despite its metallic sheen. "Come with me." Before he could respond, she led him back into the house and toward his study. She moved with a sense of purpose, her earlier curiosity replaced by a quiet intensity. She stopped in front of his old telescope, her fingers tracing its metal frame. "This machine," she said, "you use it to look at the stars." Liam nodded. "I've been using it for years. It's how I found your signal." Orina smiled faintly. "It's more than that now. Look again." Puzzled, Liam adjusted the telescope and peered through the lens. At first, he saw nothing unusual, just the familiar constellations. But then, a faint ripple of light appeared, almost like a thread weaving through the stars. It wasn't natural, and it wasn't something he had ever seen before. "What is that?" he asked, stepping back. Orina placed a hand on his shoulder. "That's the bond between your world and mine. It's fragile, but it's there. When you listened to my signal, you opened a doorway." "A doorway to what?" "To understanding," she said, "but it goes both ways. You're not just seeing the universe differently, you're feeling it." Liam looked at her, his mind racing. "What do you mean?" Orina sighed, her playful demeanor fading. "On my planet, emotions aren't private. They're energy, flowing between us like rivers. When I came here, I didn't just want to study your world. I wanted to see if a human could understand our way of feeling." "And you think I can?" Liam asked. Orina met his gaze, her eyes filled with a mix of hope and uncertainty. "I think you already do. You just don't realize it yet." Her words lingered in the air as Liam tried to process their meaning. He thought back to the past few days, to the strange sensations he had felt in her presence. The warmth, the hum, the inexplicable pull. Was it possible he was already connected to her in some way? The rest of the day passed in a blur. Orina continued her exploration of human life, asking endless questions about music, art, and history. But underneath her curiosity, Liam sensed something else, a weight she carried silently. That evening, as they sat on the porch watching the stars, Liam decided to confront her. "There's something you're not telling me," he said. Orina didn't respond at first. She stared at the sky, her expression unreadable. Finally, she said, "In my world, love isn't just an emotion. It's a force that sustains us. Without it, we fade." Liam's chest tightened. "Are you fading?" Orina hesitated, then nodded. "I didn't come here just to learn. I came here because I needed to feel something real, something human." Liam's mind raced. Her playful proposal suddenly felt heavier, more urgent. "What happens if you don't?" Orina looked at him, her glowing eyes filled with vulnerability. "I don't know, but I think you might be the answer." Her words left Liam speechless. The weight of her confession settled over him like a storm cloud. In that moment, he realized their connection was more than chance. It was a bond beyond words, one that had the power to change both of their worlds forever. A test of trust. The following day began with an unusual stillness. Liam awoke to find Orina standing by the window, her gaze fixed on the horizon. She seemed lost in thought, her radiant eyes dimmer than usual. Something was wrong. "Orina," Liam said softly, stepping into the room. She turned, her expression guarded. "The connection is weakening." "What connection?" he asked, a sinking feeling forming in his chest. "The bond between our worlds," she said. "It's fragile, and not everyone wants it to exist." Liam frowned. "What do you mean?" Orina hesitated, then sat on the edge of the couch, her hands clasped tightly. "Not all beings across the stars believe in coexistence. Some see your species as unworthy." "Unworthy?" Liam's voice sharpened. "They've never even met us." "They don't need to," Orina said. They judge based on history, on patterns. Wars, destruction, greed. It paints a picture they don't like. Liam sat across from her, his mind spinning. And you? What do you see? Orina met his gaze, her expression softening. I see potential, hope, but I can't convince them with words. I need to show them what makes humans worth connecting with. And if you can't? He asked. She didn't answer, but the look in her eyes told him everything he needed to know. Failure wasn't an option for her. It would mean losing everything. Before Liam could respond, a sudden hum filled the air. It was faint at first, barely noticeable, but it grew louder, sharper, and more intrusive. Orina stiffened, her glowing eyes narrowing. They found me. Who? Liam asked, his pulse quickening. Orina stood, her movements fluid yet tense, like a predator ready to strike. The others. They'd been tracking me since I left my world. The hum transformed into a low, vibrating rumble that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Liam rushed to the window and saw an eerie, translucent ship hovering in the distance. Unlike Orina's vessel, this one exuded menace. Its edges shimmered like broken glass, distorting the air around it. They won't harm you, Orina said quickly, stepping beside him. But they will try to take me back. Liam turned to her, panic rising. Why? What do they want? To stop the experiment, she said. They think I'm wasting time. Then we need to hide you, Liam said, grabbing her arm. Come on. Orina shook her head. They'll find me, no matter where I go. Hiding isn't an option. Liam's mind raced. Then what do we do? Orina hesitated, her expression conflicted. You could hand me over. Tell them I forced you into this. They might leave you alone. The suggestion hit Liam like a punch to the gut. Hand you over? Are you serious? After everything, after what you've told me, you think I'd do that? Orina looked at him, her glowing eyes filled with something he hadn't seen before. Fear. You don't understand what they're capable of. If you protect me, you'll become a target. I don't care, Liam said firmly. I'm not letting them take you. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Orina reached out and touched his face, her hand warm and steady. You don't have to do this, Liam. You owe me nothing. Maybe I don't, he said, his voice steady. But I'm choosing to. Orina's lips curved into a small, bittersweet smile. Thank you. The rumble outside grew louder, and a beam of light shot from the ship, scanning the ground like a searchlight. Liam grabbed Orina's hand. We need to move. They rushed to the back of the house, slipping through the door and into the woods behind the property. The trees provided some cover, but the oppressive hum of the ship followed them, growing closer with each passing moment. Keep going, Liam urged, pulling Orina along. Suddenly, a sharp, crackling sound filled the air, and a beam of energy shot past them, striking a nearby tree. The impact sent splinters flying, and Liam stumbled, nearly falling. They're trying to disable me, Orina said, her voice tight. Not harm, but immobilize. Great, Liam muttered. How do we stop them? Orina didn't answer. Instead, she pulled a small, glowing device from her pocket. It pulsed faintly, emitting a rhythmic hum that matched the beat of her energy. What is that? Liam asked. A fragment of my world's energy, she said. It's enough to create a temporary shield, but it won't last long. Before Liam could respond, the ship's beam blocked onto them. Orina pressed the device to the ground, and a shimmering dome of light enveloped them just as another blast struck. The energy deflected the attack, but the strain was visible on Orina's face. This won't hold forever, she said, her voice strained. Liam looked around, his mind racing. Then an idea struck him. What if we overload their systems? You said your energy is different from theirs. Right. Orina nodded. It's not compatible. Yes. Then let's give them more than they can handle, Liam said, grabbing her hand. Can you amplify the device's energy? Orina hesitated. It's risky. It could destabilize. We don't have a choice. Liam said, do it. Orina took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she channeled her energy into the device. The dome around them brightened, its glow becoming almost blinding. The ship above them shuddered, its hum turning into a high-pitched whine. They're retreating, Orina said, her voice filled with relief. The ship began to pull back, its form flickering like a fading hologram. Within moments, it disappeared into the sky, leaving behind a heavy silence. Liam exhaled, his legs giving out as he sank to the ground. That was close. Orina knelt beside him, her expression a mix of gratitude and exhaustion. You saved me. We saved each other, Liam said, offering her a small smile. Orina looked at him, her eyes softening. I chose you for a reason, Liam. And today, you proved why. As the stars began to appear overhead, Liam realized something profound. Protecting Orina wasn't just about saving her. It was about proving humanity's worth, to her, to the universe, and to himself. The betrayal. The air was heavy with tension as Liam and Orina made their way back to the house. The shimmering dome of light she had created had long since faded, and silence blanketed the night. For the first time since Orina had arrived, Liam felt the weight of the danger she brought. The encounter with the other ship had shaken him, but it also solidified his resolve. He couldn't let her face this alone. As they stepped inside, Orina glanced at him, her glowing eyes searching his face. You were brave today, Liam. You didn't have to be. He shrugged, trying to play off the fear still coursing through him. Bravery's not really my thing. I just didn't want them to take you. Orina smiled faintly, but her expression was shadowed by something deeper. They'll come back, you know. They always do. Liam didn't respond. He didn't know how to promise her safety when he couldn't even guarantee his own. Instead, he turned his attention to the small glowing device she still held. What is that thing, anyway? Orina looked down at it, her expression softening. It's a piece of my home, a fragment of the energy that binds us together. It's all I have left. Her voice carried a quiet sorrow that Liam couldn't ignore. You mean, if you lose that? I lose everything, she finished, her tone steady but fragile. The gravity of her words hit Liam like a punch to the gut. He wanted to tell her it would be okay, that he'd protect her no matter what. But the truth was, he wasn't sure he could. As the night wore on, Liam worked in his study, combing through his equipment and data for anything that might help them. Orina sat nearby, unusually quiet, her gaze distant. For the first time, Liam realized how much she had been holding back. The playful facade, the curiosity. It was all a mask for the fear she carried. The knock came at midnight. It was sharp and deliberate, echoing through the quiet house. Liam froze, his heart pounding. Orina's head snapped up, her glowing eyes narrowing. Who is it? Liam whispered, his voice tight. Orina didn't answer. She didn't need to. They both knew it wasn't a friendly visit. Liam moved to the window, peering through the curtains. A group of figures stood outside, silhouetted by the moonlight. They weren't alien, not like Orina, but they weren't strangers, either. It's them, Liam muttered, his stomach sinking. My colleagues. Orina's expression hardened. Your colleagues. Liam turned to her, guilt flooding his chest. I didn't tell them. I swear. But they must have picked up the energy signatures from earlier. They know something's here. Orina's eyes flashed with anger and hurt. You said I was safe with you. You are, Liam insisted. I won't let them take you. The knock came again, louder this time. A voice called out, Liam, we know you're in there. Open the door. Liam clenched his fists, his mind racing. These were people he had worked with for years, people he trusted. But now, They felt like strangers. Orina stepped closer to him, her voice low and steady. If they find me, they'll take me. You know that. I won't let them. Liam repeated, his voice firm. Stay out of sight. Orina hesitated, then nodded, retreating to the shadows of the room. Liam took a deep breath and opened the door. 3 people stood on his porch, their faces lit by the harsh beams of their flashlights. Dr. Hensley, his former mentor, stood at the front, flanked by 2 junior researchers. Hensley's sharp eyes narrowed as she looked at him. Liam, she said, her tone clipped. We've been monitoring some unusual activity in this area. Care to explain? Unusual activity? Liam asked, feigning ignorance. You mean like meteors or something? Hensley wasn't buying it. Don't play dumb. We picked up a massive energy surge earlier tonight. It's not natural. And it's coming from here. Liam forced a laugh. You think I'm hiding some kind of alien technology in my house? Hensley's eyes didn't waver. If you are, it's not just your career on the line. It's national security. The words hit Liam like a slap. He knew she wasn't bluffing. The government wouldn't hesitate to step in if they thought he was harboring something or someone. Look, he said, stepping outside and shutting the door behind him. I've been working on a project. A new energy source. That's probably what you picked up. Hensley crossed her arms. And you didn't think to report this project to anyone. I wanted to make sure it worked first, Liam said quickly. I didn't want to waste resources on something untested. The younger researchers exchanged glances, but Hensley didn't look convinced. We're going to need to search the house. Liam's heart stopped. You can't do that. Actually, we can, Hensley said, pulling out a document. This is a warrant. We're authorized to investigate any potential threats to public safety. Liam's stomach churned. He had no choice now. If they searched the house, they would find Orina. He had to stall. Give me a minute, he said. I need to make a call. Hensley narrowed her eyes but nodded. 1 minute. Liam stepped back inside, closing the door behind him. He found Orina in the corner, her glowing eyes wide with fear. They're going to search the house, he whispered. I can't stop them. Orina didn't speak. She just looked at him, her expression a mix of betrayal and heartbreak. You promised I was safe. I know, Liam said, his voice cracking. I'll figure something out. Just trust me. Orina's gaze hardened. Trust goes both ways, Liam. Her words hit him like a knife. For the first time, he realized the depth of what was at stake, not just her life, but the fragile bond they had built. As the sound of footsteps approached the door, Liam made his decision. He turned to Orina, his voice steady despite the fear in his chest. Go to the woods. Hide there. I'll leave them away. Orina hesitated, then nodded. Be careful, Liam. And with that, she was gone, slipping out the back door like a shadow. Liam turned to face the inevitable, his heart heavy with the weight of his choice. Love against the stars. The night was suffocatingly quiet as Orina disappeared into the woods, her silvery form blending seamlessly with the shadows. Liam stood at the doorway, his heart pounding, knowing the decision he had made would change everything. The sound of heavy boots crunching on the gravel snapped him back to reality. Dr. Hensley and her team were approaching the house with purposeful strides, their flashlights cutting through the dark. Liam opened the door before they could knock again, trying to look as composed as possible. All right, let's get this over with, he said, stepping aside. Hensley raised an eyebrow, but said nothing as she motioned for the team to enter. They moved quickly, scanning every corner of the house with handheld devices that emitted soft peeps. Liam hovered near the door, every muscle in his body tensed, his mind racing through ways to stall him further. What exactly are you expecting to find? He asked, his voice as casual as he could manage. Hensley didn't even glance at him. We'll know when we find it. One of the researchers moved toward the back door, and Liam's chest tightened. Orina had barely escaped minutes ago. If they spotted any sign of her, everything would unravel. "That's just storage back there," Liam said quickly, stepping in front of the door. "Old equipment. Junk I haven't gotten around to throwing out. Nothing worth your time." The young researcher hesitated, looking to Hensley for guidance. She studied Liam for a moment, her eyes narrowing. "Search everywhere," she ordered. Liam's heart sank as the team fanned out, opening cabinets, rifling through drawers, and scanning every inch of the house. The minutes stretched into what felt like hours, each beep of their devices tightening the knot in his stomach. He could only hope Orina was far enough away by now. One of the researchers returned, holding a small object in his gloved hand. "Dr. Hensley, you might want to see this." Liam's breath caught as he recognized the object. The faintly glowing fragment of Orina's energy device. She must have dropped it in their rush to escape. Hensley's sharp gaze locked onto Liam. "What is this?" she asked, holding it up. Liam forced a laugh, though it sounded hollow even to his own ears. "It's part of my experiment. I told you I've been working on a new energy source." Hensley frowned, turning the fragment over in her hands. "This doesn't look human-made." "Well, that's the point, isn't it?" Liam said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Innovation doesn't always look familiar." Hensley didn't seem convinced, but before she could press further, a sharp alarm blared from one of the devices. The team froze, their eyes darting to the screen. "Energy spike detected," one of the researchers said. "It's coming from the woods." Liam's stomach plummeted. He had hoped Orina would stay hidden, but something, or someone, had forced her to use her energy again. Hensley's expression darkened. "Move out. Now." Before Liam could think, they were already heading toward the back door. Panic surged through him as he followed them outside, his mind racing for a way to stop them. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," he shouted, desperate to buy time. "This energy isn't stable. It could be dangerous." Hensley paused, turning to him with a cold glare. "And whose fault is that?" Liam opened his mouth to respond, but a sudden, blinding light erupted from the woods, silencing everyone. The team shielded their eyes as the light grew brighter, pulsating with an otherworldly rhythm. "Orina." Without thinking, Liam broke into a run, heading straight for the source. He could hear Hensley shouting behind him, ordering her team to follow, but he didn't care. He had to reach Orina before they did. When he burst into the clearing, he found her standing in the center, her form glowing brighter than ever. Her arms were outstretched, and the air around her shimmered like a heat wave. She turned as he approached, her eyes filled with a mixture of relief and despair. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her voice almost drowned out by the hum of energy. "And leave you to face them alone." Liam said, stepping closer. "Not a chance." Orina's gaze softened, but her glow flickered. "They'll take me, Liam. It's what they want." "Not if I have anything to say about it," he said firmly. The sound of footsteps crashing through the underbrush signaled the arrival of Hensley and her team. They froze at the edge of the clearing, their faces pale as they took in the sight of Orina. "My God," Hensley whispered. "It's real." Orina turned to them, her glow intensifying. "I don't wish to harm you," she said, her voice echoing like a melody. "But I will defend myself if I must." "Stand down," Hensley shouted, raising a hand. "We're not here to hurt you." "That's hard to believe." Liam shot back, positioning himself between Orina and the team. "You're the ones with scanners and warrants." "Liam, step away," Hensley said, her tone icy. "You have no idea what you're protecting." "Yes, I do," he said, his voice steady. "I'm protecting someone who crossed the stars to understand us, to give us a chance. And you're about to ruin that." For a moment, the clearing was silent except for the hum of Orina's energy. Hensley's team exchanged uneasy glances, clearly unsure of how to proceed. "Please," Orina said, her voice softer now. "I came here to learn, not to fight. Don't make me regret that choice." Hensley hesitated, her resolve wavering. Finally, she lowered her hand. "We'll leave, for now. But this isn't over." Liam watched as the team retreated, their flashlights flickering as they disappeared into the woods. When the last of them was gone, he turned to Irina. "Are you okay?" he asked. Irina nodded, though her glow had dimmed considerably. "You stood up for me." "Of course I did," he said. "I told you, I'm not letting them take you." Irina smiled, a faint, bittersweet smile that spoke of gratitude and something deeper. "Liam, I think I understand now." "Understand what?" "What it means to be human," she said. "To protect, even when it's dangerous. To care, even when it hurts." Liam stepped closer, his chest tightening. "You don't have to leave, Irina. We'll figure this out together." Her smile faltered. "You've already done more than I could have asked. But my time here is running out." As the stars above began to shimmer with the first light of dawn, Liam realized how fragile their bond truly was. And yet, in that fleeting moment, it felt unbreakable. The eternal bond. The morning came quietly, the horizon painted in soft hues of gold and lavender. Irina sat on the porch steps, her glowing form subdued, almost as if the weight of the past few days had dimmed her light. Liam stood in the doorway, watching her. He wanted to say something, to reassure her, but the words refused to come. "How do you comfort someone who may disappear forever?" Irina turned, sensing his presence. "It's beautiful," she said, gesturing to the rising sun. "Your world has a way of making even the simplest moments feel profound." "You don't have to leave," Liam said, his voice quiet but firm. "We can figure out a way to keep you here." Irina smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You don't understand, Liam. My body isn't meant for this world. It's like a flame burning in the wrong kind of air. I'm fading, and there's nothing you can do to stop it." Liam stepped forward, frustration and desperation bubbling to the surface. "There has to be a way. Your people have technology we can't even dream of. Surely there's something." "Liam," Irina interrupted gently, rising to her feet. "This isn't just about me. This was never meant to last. I came here to learn, to see if humanity was ready for the kind of connection my people offer. And because of you, I have my answer." Her words hung in the air, heavy with finality. Liam felt his chest tighten, the thought of losing her more painful than he could have imagined. "And what's your answer?" he asked, his voice trembling. Irina stepped closer, placing a hand on his chest. Her touch was warm, her light pulsing faintly. "You're not perfect," she said softly. "Your species has flaws, fears, and darkness. But you also have hope, love, and an incredible capacity for growth. You're worth the connection." Liam's breath caught. "Then stay. Stay and show the rest of your people what you've seen." "I can't," Irina said, her voice breaking slightly. "My time here is over. But I won't forget you. And I won't let my people forget either." For a moment, they stood in silence, the world around them fading into the background. Liam wanted to argue, to beg her to stay. But deep down, he knew it wasn't his choice to make. Irina stepped back, her glow intensifying. "Before I go, there's something I want to give you." She reached into the air, and a small, star-shaped object appeared in her hand. It pulsed faintly, its surface shimmering like liquid light. She held it out to him. "What is it?" Liam asked, taking the object carefully. "A bridge," she said. "A way to communicate, no matter how far apart we are. It's not perfect, but it's the best I can do." Liam stared at the device, his hands trembling. "Irina, I." She placed a finger to his lips, silencing him. "I know." The hum of energy began to build around her, the air crackling with power. Her form grew brighter, her features fading into the light. Liam felt his throat tighten, tears welling in his eyes. He wanted to hold on to her, to keep her here, but he knew he couldn't. "Will I ever see you again?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Irina smiled, her glow now almost blinding. "Look to the stars, Liam. I'll be there." With a final burst of light, she vanished, leaving behind only the faint hum of energy and the star-shaped device in his hand. The silence that followed was deafening, the world suddenly feeling far too big and empty. Liam sank to his knees, clutching the device tightly. The weight of her absence hit him like a wave. But so did something else, a sense of purpose. She had chosen him, trusted him, and left him with the responsibility of showing her people what humanity was capable of. As the sun rose higher, painting the sky in warm hues, Liam stood and looked up. The stars were invisible in the daylight, but he knew they were there, waiting. "I'll be here," he said softly, his voice carried away by the breeze. "I'll wait." And as he turned to face the day, the small star-shaped device in his hand pulsed faintly, a gentle reminder that he was never truly alone.